A Black Juliet is causing major controversy in a new production of Romeo and Juliet. Sexyy Red gets disinvited from speaking at a high school, in fact, kicked out, and is the new Civil War movie just leftist Hollywood propaganda. This is Can't Cancel Rob Smith. All right, Problematics. First of all, the new Juliet in a London-based production of Romeo and Juliet is black, and people have a lot to say about this. Okay, so this casting was announced early last week, and it lit the internet on fire. All right, so Tom Holland, who is British, is fronting a new production of Romeo and Juliet in London. The lead actress that has been cast is somebody I've never heard of before. Her name is Francesca Amewudah-Rivers, and she is going to play Juliet. This is what this woman looks like. I have scoured the internet for more attractive photos of this woman. I do not know that they exist, but it has caused an entire uproar on the internet. Okay, so there's a couple of things that are going on here. First of all, the theater company that is involved in this is calling all of the criticism of this Black Juliet racial hatred. I honestly do not think that this is racial hatred. I do not think that people are hating on this Juliet because she is black. I think that they are hating on this chick because she is not attractive. She is not classically beautiful. This is not the idea that we have of a Juliet. And like I said, I don't think it has anything to do with the fact that she is black. Now, the company that is behind this casting has released a statement from the backlash. They are saying that this is quote unquote deplorable racial abuse. So they are telling you if you have an issue with the fact that this Juliet is basically unattractive, then you are engaging in racial hatred and racial abuse. And I do not agree with that at all. This is the thing. I'm a Broadway guy. I spend half my time in New York, and one of the reasons that I love New York is that I go to a lot of theater. It is something that I deeply, truly enjoyed. Now, a lot of theater people will know that in 2011, they did the same thing on Broadway with Orlando Bloom and Condola Rashad. Orlando Bloom was Romeo, Condola Rashad was Juliet. Nobody batted an eyelash. Nobody cared about this because, surprise, surprise, Condola Rashad is gorgeous. She is attractive. Nobody had an issue with this. So I really do take umbrage to the idea that anybody that had problems with this casting of a Black Juliet, those problems are based in racism and racial hatred. Like, I just don't believe it. Now, look, were there a couple of people on the sort of like far right, like super racist internet that had some issues with this because she's black? Yes. You know, there are people that make the arguments about like, oh, well, you know, Juliet is really white, et cetera, et cetera. First of all, you do know in the original productions, like in Shakespeare's original productions of these plays, they didn't even allow women on the stage. So Juliet was like literally played by like a boy in a wig, right? So that's the history of all of this stuff. And furthermore, like I said, I do not think that this is all about racial hatred. What I do think is about the fact that she is unattractive and where we are as a country today. Let me tell you something. And I have said this a million times before. It does not matter what happens in this country this November. The culture is shifting to the right, and we are starting to get away from the idea of Hollywood casting unattractive people in these productions. We are so over. We have just dealt with the past decade of seeing so many unattractive people shoved down our throats in the name of body positivity, in the name of inclusivity, in the name of all of this stuff. And you know what? Americans just want to get back to watching pretty people on the stage. We want to get back to watching pretty people in our movies. So I disagree with the idea that there is some sort of racial element involved in people criticizing this. I think honestly that it caught people's attention because she is not classically attractive. And furthermore, let's really get into it when it comes to Black Hollywood and some of the Black actresses that are cast in these roles, because nobody in Black Hollywood in the mainstream media will really say this because they all have to pretend that everything is great and everything is hunky-dory and everybody loves everybody. We're getting these Black actresses from Britain. We're getting the Cynthia Rivos of the world. We're getting the Lashana Lynches of the world. We are getting the Jodie Turner Smiths of the world. These women do not hold a candle to even the average Black American actress that is doing a Tyler Perry show, okay? And that is realty. These chicks aren't cute. And so a lot of Black people in America, particularly ones that engage in the culture, like I watch a lot of Black stuff. There's more Black content out there for Black people than there has been ever in history. And we're looking at this stuff and we're like, okay, why are the Black American actresses that are absolutely gorgeous, why are they always relegated to kind of like this sort of like B-list stuff when you have these Black British actresses who are not attractive and they're basically waltzed into the A-list in Hollywood? So I think there's an element of that as well. And by the way, if you think that the only people that were criticizing this casting were white people on Twitter, you got another thing coming, because Black TikTok had a field day with this chick. Black TikTok was calling her, they said it was Romeo and Biggie. Black TikTok was calling her a Rottweiler. Black TikTok was making memes comparing her to Samuel L. Jackson. Like, yo, it's brutal, right? So it's not just, you know, these evil racist white people that have an issue with this casting. We are exiting this unattractive people in Hollywood era. We are getting over it. One of the most successful movies to come out over the last couple of months was Anyone But You, with Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell. These are two attractive people that people wanted to pay to go see, to the tune of $200 million worldwide. In fact, everybody wants to have sex with Glenn Powell and Sydney Sweeney. If I had the two of them right in front of me and I had to choose, I don't know which one I'd choose, to be completely honest. So the idea that any sort of criticism of this actress is based on race and racism, I think, is missing the overall point about the fact that people in this country are tired of unattractive people being shoved down our throats. All right, the rapper Sexyy Red got kicked out of a high school speaking gig because she showed up smelling like weed. I am not even joking. And this is the video that she put on social media about this. I'm gonna play this and react to you. Like, this is what quote unquote Big Sexy had to say.
Nobody called the police. So look, so this school put me, I came up here, got you, try to talk to the kids, get in the weather today, they gonna put me on me. Tell me I smell like weed, watch this. He gonna try to get mad. Fuck that old man. Bitch, you're nobody. Bitch, like I'm finna sit with y'all. They ain't come to see you, Otis. Otis? Bitch. You heard who they screaming for. Hiya. Bro, we fucked my head up. They put us out. I ain't gonna hop down on that. Oh, smack that ball.
I have so many questions. Problematics. The first question is, who invited Sexyy Red to speak at a high school, and what in fact did they think that any of those kids were going to get out of this? I know that she got a check out of it. And so if you're just like yet another one of these degenerate rappers, obviously you're going to do whatever for money. Like, she doesn't care. But you got these kids in this high school, and these are primarily Black. No, not primarily Black kids. Those are all Black kids. This is an all Black high school. And the administrators thought that it was a good idea to get Sexyy Red to come to speak to them. Tell me, on what on earth did this woman have to offer a kid in high school? So what is she going to do? Is she going to inspire them to rap about their vaginas and their booty holes and to get famous and to basically do all that? Like, is that what she's going to inspire these kids to do? Because that's all. And look, the culture at this point, like that sort of hood rat, ghetto ratchet, like Black culture, like that part of the entertainment industry, that part of the music industry has gotten so degenerate. Like, it has gotten so ratchet. And what a lot of people don't understand is because, like, yeah, I'm a millennial. I've been, you know, I'd listen to the culture. Like, I've been listening to rap and R&B and hip hop and all of that stuff for decades at this point. What we're seeing right now is a level of just ratchetness in the culture that I have never seen before. I was watching this documentary on Hulu about Freaknik. So Freaknik was the sort of, black people got together, had a street party in Atlanta in the 90s. It became this huge thing. And there's a lot of footage that they used from, VHS recorders and stuff like that of just how people used to look back in the day, black people. Like how we used to look back in the day, how we used to carry ourselves, even when they were having fun, even when they were twerking, even when they were doing all that. I would look at the women, they were wearing Daisy Dukes, short tops, whatever. Nowadays, it's like they're basically naked, right? And so number one, the kids are going to get this from wherever, right? The kids are going to get it from social media. They're going to get it from YouTube. They're going to get it from wherever. And that's a parenting issue. That's not anything that these school administrators can handle or can control. But what they can control is bringing that stuff in and putting it right in front of the students as if there are no other options. Are there no black women that are that are lawyers or doctors or business owners, entrepreneurs? There was no other black woman that is locally in that area that could have come to speak to high school students about something real. People that came from within their community that can talk to them about something real. They just want to get some degenerate rapper to come in and teach them how to do what? How to sell themselves via social media, right? And that's an issue with the culture. And the reason that I bring this up and the reason that I go so hard on this is because that's what they bring into the real world. That's what they bring into the workplace. And I've said this before, when my white friends, white Americans, love y'all, had no issues with white Americans. When white people engage in the degenerate sort of hood rat, ghetto ratchet culture, they put it on and take it off like a costume, right? When black people do that, you can't put that on and take that off in like a costume the way that white people can. And so that's why I have the issue with this stuff being pushed on these kids. Like I had to tell you, I want to have kids someday too. And I think that I would probably tell them the same things that I'm saying right now. I was like, look, you know what's real and you know what's fake. That's entertainment. You want to go out and listen to that music and be with your friends. Like, I get it. I understand it. But what you have to understand is that that's a costume and that's a show. And in order to get out here and survive in the real world, you have to play by the real world's rules. And that's what I don't like about this, because they are presenting this woman as an example of success, and she is not an example of success. She's an example of the entertainment and music industry that gets more degenerate every single year, right? And furthermore, and the last point that I will make on this is that you never see white women in the entertainment industry being pushed and promoted in this way. It is always black women, and it's always these black female rappers. And I can name 5 of them off the top of my hand that are presented as, ghetto, hood rat, degenerate, shaking your butt, selling your body, selling whatever, doing all of this other stuff. The closest I can even think of any white girl that's been pushed out there and presented like that is like Bangers era Miley Cyrus. And even 3 years after that, Miley Cyrus was running around fields with long blonde hair, like on horses and stuff. All right. So she put that on and took it off as well. And I know what life is like in one of these ghetto public schools, because I went to one. I went to a public school that was 99% black when I was in high school, 99% black, rated F by my home state's Board of Education, in which I learned very little to nothing. I know that there were a lot of people that were graduating that could barely spell. I went to community college before I went and did undergrad, and then eventually got my master's, to sort of fill in some of those gaps. But if you've got a public education system that is supposed to be out here educating black kids, that is supposed to be out here empowering them and doing all this stuff for them, what is bringing a degenerate rapper doing for them? What is that doing to upgrade and elevate them? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. Whoever invited Sexyy Red to this high school to speak has no interest in educating children, and probably shouldn't even be working there anymore. All right, Civil War. This new movie that is coming out looks interesting, but is it just more left-wing Hollywood propaganda? So this new movie, Civil War, is coming out. It is from A24, very, very cool film studio. They gave you, movies like Hereditary, all of these kind of like super indie, but very high quality movies. And so now, this Civil War movie is coming out, which obviously is about potential civil war in an America of the not too distant future. And this is what it looks like.
Citizens of America, people of Florida Alliance, and the Western forces of Texas and California will be welcomed back to these United States as soon as their illegal secessionist government is deposed. You don't know what side you're fighting for.
Someone's trying to kill us. We are trying to kill them.
All right, I gotta tell y'all, my first thought when I heard of this movie, my first thought when I saw the trailer, this is the kind of movie that I would watch, first of all, because it looks interesting, it looks thought-provoking, there's a lot of action, all that. It has a couple actors that I like. Kirsten Dunst is basically, she's a legend, like, she's been in the game, she's like 10 years old, so many things. And first of all, it's something that I would watch, but my other thought is that, man, is this just liberal propaganda coming from Hollywood? Is this literally left-wing propaganda coming from Hollywood to promote an agenda during an election year? And so I immediately dismissed it. The first time I saw the trailer, I dismissed it. I said, this is more anti-Republican, anti-Trump propaganda that's coming from Hollywood. These people live in a total bubble. There are so many people in Hollywood that lurk on my stuff. There's so many people that secretly follow, like they'll DM secretly and all that other stuff. And they are terrified because their entire industry is just controlled by liberals and controlled by the left. And if they were to come out and say that they were going to vote for any Republican, it could be Trump this year, it could be Vivek or DeSantis or Glenn Youngkin, a couple of years, from now, they know that they will be completely blacklisted. In that industry, you are completely blacklisted if you are a Republican. And I've talked to my Republican friends in Hollywood about this that are so deeply closeted, and you notice that the ones that come out, the James Woodses of the world, I think that Sly Stallone is conservative, the John Voights and all that stuff, note that they come out after they've made all of their money. So it is very much a liberal bubble in Hollywood. But and so I was immediately ready to kind of dismiss this and to say that, this is just trash, this is propaganda, I don't want to watch it, etc. But, and this is the big but, so I've been looking at some of these interviews. And I've been reading these interviews with Kirsten Dunst. I've been reading these interviews with the director. And the people that work on these Hollywood rags, like, the Variety and the Hollywood Reporters of the world, their job, like the mainstream media, their job is to bait all of these people with these political questions. Like, if you're an interviewer interviewing this director or this actress, your job is to bait them into saying an incendiary political statement so then you could get more attention to the interview, so you can throw out clickbait. And so Variety did this entire cover story with Kirsten Dunst, and I'm reading it, and they seem to be so careful to not tie the movie to anything that's going on in the country right now. They seem so careful to not tie the movie to Trump. It would have been the most obvious thing in the world, I think, for them to go on a media tour and for them to talk about America's on the brink of a civil war and this election is about democracy and the freedom of our world is at stake. I think it would have been very easy for them to do that. And so the thing that intrigues me is that they have made the active choice not to do that. And that makes me interested as to what the movie is. And I've been hearing a lot about some of the first reactions from the movie that it's very ambiguous. And so whatever you're going into the movie with, that's probably the lens through which you're going to see this, which I find fascinating. And I say this a million times. I say that the culture is shifting to the right no matter what happens in DC or what happens, in November in terms of the election. Because if a movie like this would have come out in 2018, it would have been all about, anti-Trump and anti-Republican and anti-MAGA and all this different stuff. I think that we're shifting the corner. I think we're turning the corner. And I think that these conversations are becoming a little bit more nuanced. I think that people are starting to realize that this stuff is not black and white. This stuff is not cut and dry. There's a lot of different things that go into why people vote the way that they vote, why people believe what they believe. And I find it fascinating. So I, for one, will be watching this movie because I'm going to have my own thoughts about it. And I want to see if it's the obvious propaganda that I thought I was going to see, or if it's something that is more interesting than that. And furthermore, this talk about like America, being in the threat of civil war and all this other stuff, this is media driven. Like, I think that that's propaganda. I honestly do. Because you don't hear this talk coming from anybody but people on the fringes. And I've said this to you guys a million times. It is the people on the fringes that benefit from normal Americans at each other's throats all the time. Most people in this country are more on the center of most issues. But the people that are in charge get their money and their power and all their tens of millions and all of this other stuff by having people do this. And so again, I think it's very interesting that the people that decided to make this movie are not going that route in the PR tour. And I am very interested. I am personally very interested to see this movie and to see what they have to offer. All right, New York City is becoming a third world country, and I've got the proof. Check this out.
I literally live in Guatemala. So unbelievably disgusting and tragic and sad. What the fuck is this? I mean, really? Do we need 10 stands of the same shit?
So if you don't know what that was an open air food market in downtown New York City. So this is people selling fruit, selling churros, selling all of this other stuff. I think that Mayor Adams' slogan needs to be "Make New York City Guatemala again," because that is exactly what this looks like. And you know what? Look, there's a lot of like big city libs that are gonna say, "Oh, this is what they say. They say, oh, diversity is our strength, and I love the fact that I live in New York City and there's so many different cultures and et cetera, et cetera." BS, first of all, because an open air food market in downtown New York City is absolutely disgusting. Do you have any idea what it is like to live in New York City? Do you have any idea how dirty that city is? How much exhaust there is from all of the buses and all of the other stuff that's going on? All of the dirt that's flying from the ground in the air, that's flying onto this fruit that's being sold by people who are more likely than not in this country legally. All right. So it is yet another example of just the degradation of New York City, like as a beautiful place to live. And look, I have been living in New York City in some capacity for the better part of 15 years. I split my time in between New York and Miami now. I spent a good amount of my time, particularly in the summer and the fall, in New York City. And over the past couple of years, I have seen that city degrade more and more and more. It started during the de Blasio years, where that man and his grifter wife basically went into New York City, robbed that place blind, Look up Thrive NYC and how they lost $1 billion that nobody seems to be able to find. So they went in that city, robbed it blind, and now it is much worse than it was when they went in. So now Eric Adams comes in. That, you know, he's going to be the guy to clean up New York City. And what is going on with New York City, and a part of the reason why it's circling the drain right now, is that the illegal immigration issue in New York City has become completely untenable. It's become completely outrageous. And I say this as somebody that like I said, I split my time between there. I am not somebody ranting about New York City like from a you know, studio in Wisconsin. All right, like I go there. I live half my life in New York City. And what I've seen with this illegal immigration issue, where you have Governor Abbott out of Texas and Governor DeSantis out of Florida basically saying that, okay, New York, you want to be a sanctuary city? Put your money where your mouth is, because I'm about to bust all these illegal immigrants up there and we're going to see how you deal with them. And that is exactly what's happened. And I will tell you this. I have never seen so many illegal immigrants on the streets all the time in New York City. It is outrageous. It is absolutely crazy. When you go to Midtown and you go to the Hell's Kitchen area, which, by the way, a lot of these illegal immigrants hotels are in the Hell's Kitchen area. There was a video that went viral a couple of weeks ago of all of like a group of people like just basically getting into a brawl, you know, right near the theater district, right? And that is the new normal in New York City. The new normal is women selling churros on subway platforms all over the subways. The new normal is little kids that are likely illegals selling candy on the subways. And this is everywhere. It's everywhere. And your average New York City lib, your average bleeding heart lib in New York City is going to pretend that these things don't exist. Because if they are to say that there is an issue with the illegal immigrant population in New York City, then they're going to lose all their progressive credibility. So they do the same thing with the illegal immigration situation as they do with the homeless situation, as they do with the city's corruption problem, as they do with the fact that the subway service gets worse and worse every year, which, by the way, and it magically seems to become more expensive every year, which I'm not entirely sure how that works. So New York City has always been a place that has had its fair share of illegal immigrants. Let's keep it all the way real. Before the situation that we have right now with the busing of the illegal immigrants from the border states, because, by the way, Joe Biden is doing absolutely nothing to secure that border. In fact, everything that Trump was doing to secure the border, he has undone and made that situation 10 times worse than it was before. But the illegal immigrant population in New York City had always been there, but they were more integrated into the fabric of the city, right? And at that point, let's be real, it was mostly in the Bronx. And nobody goes to the Bronx. Like, I'm sorry, unless you live in the Bronx, you don't go to the Bronx. Ain't nobody taking the 2 train to the Bronx to go have brunch. All right? It ain't happening. But this is something different because now you can't go to Midtown, you can't go downtown, you can't go anywhere without seeing the results of what's going on at the border, which, by the way, is politically brilliant. It was politically a brilliant choice from these Republican governors, because now it is putting the problem in the faces of all of these hypocritical libs that were talking about sanctuary city policies and go around patting themselves on the back, acting like they're such amazing people because they just say the right things. Now they have to deal with it. And it's not a cute thing to deal with it. The problem hasn't come to my particular neighborhood in New York City yet. I hope it never does. But it's something that the city is absolutely going to have to deal with. In this open air fruit market in New York City, number one, it's disgusting. It's unsanitary. It's filthy. It makes New York City look third world, which is exactly the direction that city's going into. Charles Barkley wants to punch Trump supporters, but he is sure starting to sound like one. So now Charles Barkley, the faded NBA star turned mealy mouth, black lib mouthpiece on cable television. He's got that show on CNN with Gayle King that's absolutely flopping. So he said a couple weeks ago, and you can find that on the YouTube page, YouTube at Can't Cancel Rob Smith. He said that if he saw a Trump supporter walking around with one of those Donald Trump mugshot t-shirts, a black Trump supporter walking around with one of those Donald Trump mugshot t-shirts, that he would punch him. This is what Charles Barkley said.
If I see a black person walking around with Trump mugshot, I'm gonna punch him in the face.
Charles.
No, Gail.
You really can't say that because A, you don't mean that.
Oh, I mean that sincerely.
But in this interview with Stephen A. Smith, he is sure starting to sound like a Trump supporter. He is sure starting to sound like one of the big city limousine liberals that is fed up with their policies, because he is starting to understand and starting to see that the policies are trash and they do not work. This is him on Stephen A. Smith.
Listen, man, and this crime wave we got going around the country where people just running in stores, this is crazy, man. This is crazy. People just running in stores, robbing people, all this homeless stuff. It's to the point, yo, man, we elected y'all to do y'all job. Y'all do your job. Stop this homelessness stuff. Get these people off the street. Find some other way to leave them in front of just out and taking advantage of the public. And, hey, if you come in these stores robbing people, number one, it's open season on your ass. But also, if we catch you, you're going to jail. Yeah. You know, I've been coming up here to New York to do this show for like the last couple months. And like
and you see the streets. You see the streets in New York.
3 weeks ago on TV, they had.
All right, pause. First of all, you voted for this. You advocated for this. People like Charles Barkley and every other black lib commentator in the media advocated for this when they advocated for defunding the police, when they advocated for Biden, when they advocated for all of these far left policies over the past couple of years because it was cool. You put in these do nothing black lib politicians who advocate for the same thing. You got Kamala Harris and all those people basically putting up GoFundMes to raise bail money for the people that burned down all the cities 4 years ago. So this is the chickens coming home to roost, and you don't get to say that you're tired of it. You don't get to stand up and say that you're tired of the results of the things that you have been voting and advocating for the past 4 years. Do you understand me? You don't get to do that. And so that's what irritates me about this. That's the first thing that irritates me about this. I'm going to play the rest of his remarks.
At these migrants, first of all, the border is a joke. The border is a joke. Yeah. But they had these migrants, they call them, had just bust up in New York. They got them on camera kicking and beating like cops. They beat up these
two cops, beating up two cops, beating up two police officers.
But they were
in the subway station.
They were out of jail in 24 hours, and the next day.
Actually, it was the same day, Charles.
But 2 days later, they called them robbing Macy's. I'm like,
wow.
First of all, they beat up cops. How are you out of jail in 24 hours? And then clearly, 2 days later, they're robbing Macy's. Anybody, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or dog, or cat, or puppy, you know that's wrong, period.
But it's woke culture. But with woke culture and everything else that's been going on, you've got folks.
Yeah, Charles, we know that's wrong. This is what we have been saying for the past 4 to 6 years when you were pushing to defund the police and you were riding for Biden and y'all were doing all of this stuff. And this is what the thing that pisses me off the most about these black lib commentators is that they go any way the wind blows. They never take an unpopular position when it is unpopular to take a certain position. And this is why I tell you guys that all of these people are bought and sold, and all of these people are controlled by the mainstream media dollars that sign their paychecks. Because Charles Barkley knows that he would have gotten dragged all over the internet by Black Twitter and Black TikTok and all these other black libs that, try to keep, black men in their place and advocating for lib policies and Biden and all this other stuff. He knows that if he would have said these things 4 years ago when it probably would have mattered to say them, when the cities were being burned down and the rest of us were being basically dragged all over the place for literally saying that these things are wrong, all right? He could have came up and said something then. Stephen A. Smith could have came and said something then, but you didn't say anything then. You're saying things now because it's safer for you to say so. You're saying things now because whoever is signing your checks and whoever is giving you these platforms have told you that this is okay. And by the way, and I've said this a million times, this is all about the fact that the left and the liberals are done with Joe Biden. They are done with this person. He will be replaced on the top of the ticket come November. They know he's weak. They know he's weak on the border. They know he's physically weak. They know that they cannot promote that man across the country running for president. They know that that's not going to happen. Okay? They know it's not going to happen. So that's what this is all about now. And this is about a cowardice, particularly among the black men that have a certain position in mainstream media. They're cowards. Charles Barkley is a coward. Stephen A. Smith, you're a coward. Because if you were bold, you would have said this 40 years ago and not now. Now it's safe for you to say it. And by the way, all of this, well, I don't care, this Charles Barkley, I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican or whatever, blah, blah, blah. Look, if you don't vote for president, you know what you're going to get from either side. So why not have the guts to say the stuff and to take a stand? These people playing both sides, I'm over it. And Charles Barkley doesn't speak for me. You don't speak for anybody else. You certainly don't speak for the vast majority of black men in this country. You speak for nothing but whatever mainstream media people are paying your checks. All right, Problematics, thank you so much for joining me. Please watch and subscribe over on YouTube. Helps the algorithm, helps me out, and Can't Cancel Rob Smith. I will be back to you on Friday.